My name is Carolyn Geiger, and I am with Keller Williams Northland Partners in the Kansas City area. Go Chiefs! So, if I am the productivity coach, one of them for our office, and I'm happy to be here with you guys. So, here we go. First things first is we've got to work leads to get the listing appointments. And leads are vital to your business, but seller listings are critical to your ability to be able to build your business at a faster pace and in a wider platform to grow your database so you can start working with more buyers and sellers off of your listings. So why do you guys think that's important? What is the advantage of having listings?
So you control the inventory.
Oh, I love that. You control the inventory. Fantastic. What does that do for you?
It gives you leverage. Well, you dictate the market. You have all the inventory, so everyone's going to come to you. Anyone who's looking for a home.
Okay. And maybe other neighbors in the neighborhood, right? Because if they see you taking inventory, if they see you taking territory within a particular neighborhood, city, or area, then you become known as the expert of that area. So that's how you get, exactly. Yeah, love it. Okay, fantastic. What else is an advantage of having a listing rather than a buyer?
A lot of times you can possibly bring a buyer in and get both sides of the deal.
Okay.
Usually if you're bringing buyers to a listing, it's obviously with another agent most of the time.
Okay, fantastic. So yes, it gives you the opportunity to pick up a buyer. Now, what might be even a better opportunity is that you're going to pick up buyers that won't necessarily buy your listing, but will buy somewhere else. And then for some of our brokers, that's a little more comfortable. And we're not necessarily working both sides of a deal, technically. But yes, for every listing that you have, you should have the expectation that you're going to attract a buyer and another piece of business, whether that be a listing in the neighborhood from a neighbor that comes, somebody that comes into the open house. Listings give you the opportunity to market your business, to tell the world that you are in business, to tell your database that you are in business so that you can get more business. Okay. So having the listings gives you the opportunity to market. If you guys have a buyer, you might have an opportunity to tell the world that you have a buyer and who has a house that meets this criteria, but it's not as easy to market, I have a buyer, as it is to say, here's my pretty listing photos and put that on a postcard or have an open house or, go door to door in a neighborhood and invite people in to see the house. Makes sense to you guys? So yes, listings, you should have the expectation, I'm going to pick up a piece of business off of every listing that I get. Okay. So here's some others. Okay. Seller listings mean marketing opportunities. You have control of your time because what happens when you have a listing? Who does all the work once you get it on the market?
The buyers.
The buyers.
Yeah, the buyer's agents, those sad people that have all the buyers that are, maybe if you're still in a market that's competing, and I am. So, it's like we got a buyer at a certain price point, like we're getting ourselves beat up every time we go look at houses and write an offer. So why don't you be the receiver of all those offers instead of the one writing the offer and then didn't work out? Now we're back at it, right? So this allows you to leverage your time because other people are doing the work. The buyer's agent is attending the inspection. The buyer's agent showing the buyer multiple times. The buyer's agent is, doing the walkthrough. You're basically putting a sign in the yard. You might, shake hands with the appraiser and meet them if there's an appraisal on the property. But ultimately, once you do the upfront work, you can actually kind of sit back and, just manage the sale and work with your sellers to make sure that the sale is going as smooth as it can be. So it's definitely less time. It might be a little bit more intensive for a very short period of time because you're working to get the house on the market, to do the marketing, to do the open house. But after that, everybody else is doing the work for you. So because of that, you are maximizing your dollar per hour compensation. So you're making more money on your time because of that. Also volume. So, I think it was Tristan that mentioned, you control your territory, you control the market, you have the volume, you have the data to say, I'm an expert in this neighborhood, or I've sold this much, this many houses or this much dollar amount. It gives you control of that. And with seller listings, you are on the front end of pricing. So whether the market is going up or down, you're doing your study to figure that out. Whereas buyers have to react to the price that's put out, and then they have to either justify that one way or the other, right? Depending on what type of market you guys are in. With a properly marketed seller listing will give you more business. So I want you guys to have the expectation. I'm going to pick up two pieces of business minimum on every single listing. And as our market relaxes a little bit, and I think across the country, we're seeing evidence of that happening. There are more opportunities to get more buyers the longer your listings are actually visible to the public. So don't have a freak out if it takes an extra week or 2 weeks or even a month in some cases to get a property under contract. That's normal. And it's okay. And that gives you opportunities to have 2, 3, 4 rockstar open houses. Get some sign calls. Who here would love to get a sign call with an active buyer that's interested in the house? Raise your hand, because that should be everybody on this call. And so those listings being on the market give you the opportunity to run Facebook ads. It gives you the opportunity to blog. It gives you the opportunity to do video tours. It gives you the opportunity to do a TikTok dance in front of the house. Whatever it is that you do, it gives you those opportunities. And lately, in the past, I don't know, in my area, it's been 3 to 5 years. You put a house on the market, within 3 days, it's gone. You don't have the opportunity to continue the long tail marketing that gets you those buyer and seller opportunities in the future. So embrace this. Don't be afraid of it. Take advantage of this time that you guys have. So we are looking for A qualified sellers, meaning they're A-list, right? What do you guys think? Who is an A-list seller? How do you want them to show up? These are people that are able, willing to do business with you in 14 days. Let's talk about, as a group, where do you find A+ sellers?
Pre-approved.
Okay, so they're going to buy and they're pre-approved, so they have a willingness to sell. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so sometimes your A+ sellers are A+ buyers. What else? Who else is a A+ seller? What are we looking for? How do they behave? Where do we find them?
So where do we find them?
Yeah, where do we find them? Did I hear sphere of influence?
Sphere of influence. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and how would I do that? How do I find them in my sphere?
My friends, family, my phone.
Your phone. Okay. And what are you doing? What message are you giving them to
I'm letting everyone know that I'm a realtor.
Okay.
Letting everyone know I'm a realtor. Tell their friends, their family, co-workers, church members, whoever it may be.
Okay. Fabulous. So is that in the way of making calls? Is it text? What do you do? What works?
I actually text and call close friends. I have sent out some letters to those who I'm friends with, but we don't talk every day, maybe once a year. Or I go on Facebook and personally just message them. I did one this morning, actually, a coworker I used to work with, letting her know, hey, I'm a realtor now. Who do you know that's looking? So yeah, just to say hi, drop by.
Awesome. Okay, I love it. So within your own database, but your database needs to know that you're a real estate agent. And you can't just tell them once. It takes multiple pieces of contact, types of contact. Sometimes I call that multi-channel contact, meaning can't be all phone, it can't be all text, it can't be all mail. Could be technically all phone and in person. It's just time consuming if you've got a larger database. So you mix it up by adding things that are free, quick, and easy, along with the phone calls and the personal interactions and the meetups and the get-togethers and the pop-bys and things like that. So you aren't going to be able to tell your closest friends and relatives once that you're an agent and expect them to remember it. It takes multi opportunities of contact in order to drive that point through, even with those that you think should know. It took my brother probably 6 or 7 years before he figured out I was a pretty serious real estate agent, and he started thinking of me in that way. So it takes you telling them that you're successful. So that's sending out, I just listed a house. I just sold a house. This is what the market's doing. Talk about real estate through newsletters, postcards, phone conversations, Facebook posts, instant messaging, whatever it is, whatever your wherever your database lives and receives information, you need to be telling them that you are an agent, and don't just tell them once, tell them multi times. All right. Where else would we find ready to go sellers? Come on, somebody. Where can we find ready to sell sellers?
Possibly
sale by
expired
owner?
listings.
Lenders.
Okay. I heard expired listings. Fabulous. And I heard, I think, lenders.
And for sale by owners?
For sale by owners. Love it. What else do we got?
Relocation companies.
Relocation. Yeah, we have a relocation division to help you learn how to do that if that's something of interest to you.
Divorce
Expired.
attorneys?
Naomi or Abby, I think you guys talked on top of each other.
Expired.
Okay, expired listings.
And I just said divorce attorneys?
Oh, that's sad. But yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, divorce attorneys, and what would be another sadness? That would be technically
A death?
death. Yeah. Yeah. And a state attorney would be a good couple people to have in your database. So if you are looking for leads like that, who do you know in your database that might be an attorney that's either even an accountant sometimes, because the accountants know people are talking life changes with their accountant, like how's this going to affect us, or what if we do this, or what if we buy a vacation home. So having a great accountant or a tax attorney, having a great estate attorney and a family law attorney, or somebody that's handling divorce would also be great. Now, on the flip side, it could be an attorney that does prenup, which would be a family law attorney typically. So as people get married, then it's a happier story, and there could be referral opportunities there as well with attorneys that draw that paperwork up. So yeah, so that's another great resource. And again, those attorneys should be treated as people in your database that get a 36 touch, and pop by, drop bys, coffee dates, things like that. And make sure that with any attorney, you are also referring back. So you're referring your clients back to great attorneys that are doing good work. Okay, so I didn't want to skip over expireds and for sale by owners. What is great about expireds and for sale by owners?
Well, FSBOs think they know it all, and when they realize that they can't sell a home, then you get an expert to come in, such as ourselves, to tell them, well, this is why your house didn't sell, and that's the opportunity for us to market ourselves to them and offer our services. Expireds have tried it, but for whatever reason, priced wrong, and going with another agent, we were able to sell our service again and explain, well, how we could do a better job than the last agent.
Okay. Awesome. So a lot of times it's not only just pricing, but I find expired opportunities are also sometimes just condition issues. Like the agent just didn't have the skill set to be able to tell a seller, you got to paint your lime green walls. You got to take your trash out. You got to clean up a little bit. There are a lot of agents that will take the listing, but skip on really advising the client on what to do to put their house in the best light. And so as our market softens a little bit across the country, there will be expired opportunities of agents who haven't had a lot of training in that area, because we haven't had those opportunities solid opportunities, at least in my market, for I would say 7 years. We've been, markets on fire. And if you put something on the market, you're probably going to sell it. So that, the expireds have been very few and far between, but that is starting to change. So yeah, that is a great, this is a great time to start your system with expired listings, so that you're waking up every morning, you're checking the expired list, you're dropping by their house, you've got a packet ready to go, you're sending something in the mail if they're a vacant seller. You've got a system ready to go for that, to get in communication with those people. The for sale by owners, also these two categories are people that are trying actively or have tried actively to sell. They are actually wanting to sell their house and they haven't yet. So these should be two categories on top of your SOI that you should absolutely be focused on. So I have somebody in my coaching program that has been a little shy, and she's been kind of, coming to the classes, and the participation level's been, good, but the active level has been a little hesitant. Well, she finally made a couple of calls to for sale by owners this week, and she just caught the right one at the right time. And they were like, you know what? We're tired. Come on over. We'll list with you. And she got the listing. She didn't have to work hard at it. She just picked up the phone and made a dial. So she's on top of the world, and I'm so happy for her because there are opportunities with for sale by owners like that. There are going to be some that are not yet workable. There will be some that will sell it themselves, but there will be a few. If you follow up and keep at it with for sale by owners, the secret is time on task. It's not a one and done call. It's a follow-up system that you've got to execute for at least 5 to 8 weeks. You've got to let that for sale by owner get through the process where Tristan was like, they're frustrated. They realize they can't do it on their own, or they had a scary experience one way or another. Something went wrong, maybe with a contract they had in place. They didn't get the appraisal, buyers backed out on inspections, and now they're second guessing if they have the skill set to do it. But you got to wait till they come to that realization on their own before sometimes they're workable. So you just have to be the next agent that makes the call. And you never know when that event or when that mindset will shift for that for sale by owner. You've just got to be in constant follow-up with these people for sure. So put them on a smart plan, get a mailers going out every week, get a weekly call, get a weekly text. Hey, how you doing? Did you have an open house this weekend? How did it go? Talk to me. Be their friend. They're not enemies. Hey, I had a great open house. We had 10 people show up. How'd yours go? Did you get an offer? Right. And just see how it's doing, and just always be there for when they're ready, to have a breakdown. Then you're there to pick them up. That's awesome. Okay. How do you guys think, for sale by owners, sellers in general, how do you want your A+ sellers to show up? Like, what should they be saying? How should they be behaving? What do they do? What's your ideal client?
I would say one that cooperates and will allow you to do your job and trust you.
Okay, y'all should be writing this down. I want you to write down a prescription and a description of your favorite ideal seller client. Let's put this into existence through the power of visualization and calling it out. So they are willing and able and will do what you say. They follow direction, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, perfect. Write that down. Follow direction. What else do they do?
Teachable or flexible.
Kyle, I think I heard flexible, and then I didn't hear who spoke on top of him.
Sorry, it was me. Probably for me, the most important thing will be that they listen to the listing price, the suggestion that the range that we suggest, and they don't want to go over to where it's not going to sell.
Okay, fantastic. So they listen to advice. And I'm sorry, Kyle, can you please tell me again what you said? Flexible?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and so go deeper. Like, what does that mean, flexible?
They're willing to compromise on the things that maybe they weren't so open to previously, maybe taking down photos or family pictures, being less personable or present during the listing or the open house.
Perfect. I like that. So yeah, so they're flexible. They listen to advice. They take advice. They're willing to put them and their home in the best light in order to cause it to sell quickly and for a higher price. Would that make sense?
Yes.
Kyle, I just tied you down, Kyle. That's a tie down. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But yes, that's right. Now, is it Marinella? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So I liked what you said about the pricing. So let's dive a little deeper there. So, you don't always have to have 100% agreement on the price. You can have a disagreement when it comes to pricing strategy. However, when you have a seller that isn't so tied up that highest dollar is my only goal and at all costs, that is a much easier seller to work with that doesn't have that exact attitude. Of course, we want to do our best for our sellers. And of course, we want to give them the best price possible because our income is tied to that, right? Because we're commission based. However, it's when you have a pretty strong conflict at the pricing and you've got someone who's not willing to listen or even recognize smart market advice, that if they can't self-discern their property against the competition that sold for less or higher or wherever your argument or your rub is with that seller, whether it's putting it into the right your home into the right condition, or it's pricing it right, or making it available for showings, cleaning it up, whatever needs to be done, having a seller that is willing to work with you is golden. It's absolutely golden. What else might a perfect seller look like? Oh, I've got chat here ready, and willingness to advertise showings and open houses. So yeah, so Caitlin put that into chat. So I think sometimes when you have a seller that is guarded with, they don't want their house on Facebook. They don't want their neighbors to know they're selling. makes it difficult when you're trying to do the marketing, when you're trying to do your job, which is simply to jump up in front of and down in front of the house and tell the world that it's for sale. So when you have a seller that doesn't want to participate in telling the world the house is for sale, it makes your job a little more challenging. So you definitely want a client that's open to that. You also want a client that can be available to, or can make the house available for showings and have it staged, have it cleaned, not say no to every other appointment request. So they're willing to, maybe, I don't know if the market's still on fire in your particular area. I have been recommending to some of my sellers, hey, do you want to take the weekend and, go to the lake, take a staycation downtown in one of the hotels and, have a little fun and just not worry about coming home every day and getting kicked back out of the house and then coming back home and then getting kicked back out of the house and then having to clean and keep your own things, out of the way for staging purposes when buyers are coming in to look at the house. So as our market slows down, that I won't make that recommendation, but to have a seller that's willing to kind of give you carte blanche when it comes to scheduling showings definitely helps. Does anything else come to mind?
Loyalty.
Loyalty. Okay. So tell me more about that.
I had a situation where a client went to another agent, actually. So any questions, I just let them know, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here for you, but just don't go outside of our agreement.
Yeah, absolutely. You want a client that relies on you and takes seriously your covenant with them to be their advocate, right? To ask me questions, let me work in your best interest, right? So you want somebody that understands that relationship. Absolutely. All right. Is it easier to go this way? What do you not want your client to do?
Be difficult.
Be difficult. Okay. What does that mean? How do they show up as difficult?
You kind of went over some of it just for starters with the not being available, not having the house clean, not agreeing to be gone or the price, although that's for negotiation as well, and or not understanding the relationship.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you. So what else? Did anybody else have something that they do not want their seller? How do we not want them to show up?
Anxious and unsure.
Not to be at the home during an open house.
Excellent. All right. Not be home during the open house or any showing. This is in my rule book. Like, just get the heck out and stay out. Don't talk to anybody. Right. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. What else you guys got?
Allow you to present the house in the best light that is available for it to be seen in.
Yes.
I don't mean light of day. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we want them to be, and it doesn't necessarily mean high level staging. It just means, can you clean, can it be clean? Can it be presentable? Can we not have dogs and cats crawling all over the house and interfering with people that are showing? Can we not have strict rules? I've had a seller recent and past that, it shouldn't be happening, right? But for whatever reason, because he was dialed in to every single door had a lock and a screen door that needed to be locked and a light that needed to be on in one room and a light that needed to be off in the other room. And there was just like all of these, like, there was probably like 15 different directions of lights on, lights off, doors locked, this, that, other thing. And don't lock this door because I need to get in from the garage, but lock every other door. And the agents just couldn't follow direction. It was too many directions. It was too many, he put up little signs and little pieces of tape. It was like the house was screaming at every agent, like, follow my rules. And yet it's like the agents should be able to comply with that. But yet it was difficult to get my seller to relax around the fact that people are coming in and out of the house. And you're going to have to just, check the house every night. You're just going to have to do a walkthrough and just make sure doors are locked, windows are locked, sliding glass doors are locked, and gates are locked and things like that. And the more uptight that he got about it, it's like the more the agents couldn't seem to comply. And even though I would say to them, like, please, just follow the directions, they just couldn't. And so it became very frustrating for my seller. And finally, I'm just like, you just need to be okay with letting this go. Like,
I would say be realistic. Realistic is definitely what you just described.
That's great. Yes. Be realistic. Like, people are human. Agents are human. Kids, parents, other people that are along with the buyers, that are along for the ride may go back behind you when you've locked a door. Buyer's agent doesn't always, should be able to go back and check that, but sometimes it's not, you don't even know that somebody went back through a door that you just locked. So it's difficult. So I had to have a little meeting with that seller of setting the expectations. Like, as much as I'd like to stand up for you and say this should be done, it's so difficult that the agents are they're climbing all over, they're just confused. So we just need to simplify, right? And fortunately, we got the house under contract within 2 days, so it was fine. But dang, for that little bit of time, I was getting texts like every 2 hours, like this is wrong and that is wrong. So yeah. Okay, so what I want you guys to do with this is I want you to call out, who is my favorite client? Who is my ideal client? What do they look like? I have an agent in my office that did this. They wrote out their favorite buyer client and their favorite seller client and just called it out. Like, these are how my people show up. They sign forms or they fill out forms. They do what I ask within a reasonable amount of time. They're willing to stage. They're willing to, paint. They're willing to be flexible. They're like all the things that we've talked about. They're willing to negotiate. They're willing to price right. And when you have a client because here's the thing, you guys, just because you have a seller lead doesn't mean you should take every seller opportunity that is willing to say yes to you. There are people out there that you are just better off not having an agency relationship with. And my own niece is an agent, got her license in the last 3 years, had an experience like that, where she picked up a for sale by owner, sold his first investment house that he was willing to give her. She did an amazing job, went to bat for him on some negotiations on a failed appraisal, and got the buyer to come up with $6,000 extra that initially the seller was willing to let go of. And then the second time around, he shows up wanting to cut her commission, not really wanting to stage the house, not really wanting to do anything. And in the middle of the transaction, turns out the roof was trashed. The buyers asked for the seller to make an insurance claim to see, just to try to help him out, to not have to spend so much money. Seller refuses, raises the price to get the new roof. Buyer agrees because they feel like they want the house. So yeah, that's fine. And then the seller turns around and makes an insurance claim and not only gets paid on the roof, but on several other items that he just took the money. And a few days before closing, the insurance agent working for the buyer pulled a clue report. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's kind of like a history of a property. So it'd be like MLS history of a property, of any insurance claim that's ever made. And any insurance agent, as your buyers are getting insurance on these houses, can ask to see a copy of that clue report, because the insurance agent is going to pull that anyway. So the buyers can have a copy of it if they want. And they found out about this claim. And so therefore, the insurance agency for the buyer was not going to insure the items that were already paid out on by the prior insurance company. Then that had happened within the last 3 weeks of the sale. So there was a big, huge hoopla. Our broker had to get involved. Like, it was a big hot mess. This guy was a big hot mess. And I remember when at the very beginning, when I was kind of coaching her through the start of the second listing, and when he was going after her on commission, and I was like, look, you don't have to take a cut. Like, don't feel like you have to take a cut. You don't need the money that bad. Like, don't do it just to cave into him. If he's not showing up right and he's already stressing you out, how is this going to end? And you know what? It didn't end very well. It ended with her almost having an anxiety attack and a heart attack because her heart rhythms are all messed up because she's so stressed out. And there's just a point where the money's not worth it. And so you want to really formulate your business and your seller leads with people that are willing and able to sell and are willing and able to do what's needed to make that as good of an experience as you can. So write that down. And then when you encounter the lead that isn't acting right, instead of making an exception, right, ask yourself, do they line up with my ideals? And if they don't, and just a little bit, and you can tweak it, then tweak it. Totally fine. Like, you can still make money off of people that maybe don't see eye to eye with you, but definitely don't work for somebody that's just, like more than, I would say even 40% off of your ideal client. Just think about that, or refer it. Let somebody else handle it. They may have a better skill set or a better personality match with that particular seller. And then they can, they'll work for it and you get a check out of nowhere. So that's awesome. I like free money. That's pretty cool when that shows up. Okay. Any questions going back to, like, where do I find sellers? I know you guys have had a little bit of training on finding leads and all of that. But is there any questions that anybody would have regarding where do I find these leads or what do I need to be doing up to that point? Okay, moving on. Okay, so this is the seller service cycle. So this is kind of what it looks like. Number one, we're going to get the leads and we're going to convert those leads into appointments. We're going to do a pre-listing packet, which we're going to go over next. Next is your actual listing appointment itself, the listing consultation. Then we're going to go to servicing and marketing that listing, offers and negotiation, contract to close. And then what do we do after that? Okay, so this is kind of the cycle of a seller. And tonight we're going to work on areas 1, 2, and 3. All right, let me have a couple ahas. What have you guys picked up so far from our first few minutes together?
I would say setting your standard up front so that you don't run into complications later on.
Okay, yeah, set your standards up front so everybody knows the score and knows how to behave. I love it. Knows the rules of the game. Okay, thanks, Tristan. What else?
Knowing you don't have to take every single listing that is presented to you. I mean, set your boundaries, not everyone's a good fit.
That's absolutely right. And that's why lead generating is so dang important, you guys, because I want you to have choices. I don't want your lead funnel to be so skinny that you feel like I have to work with the jerky sellers or the people that don't fit my criteria. They don't have to be jerks, just don't fit my criteria because I don't have any other options. And lead generation gives you the option and the comfort to say, you know what, I'm not ready for that headache, but let me find you an agent that is ready for that headache, and you get a referral. Yeah, excellent. Thank you for sharing. All right, let's have one more. What's something cool that you just figured out tonight that you didn't know?
Let's say all the different places you can actually get listings, like the lawyers and the estate attorneys. And I wasn't thinking out of the box that way.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the best ways that you can find listings is to create your own business network. In other words, if you pal up with your favorite electrician, your favorite plumber, your favorite painter, your favorite attorneys, your favorite accountant, your favorite, and you can go on right on down the line, right? You can make a whole list of people that are involved in a real estate transaction, especially, or just anybody that has a service like a house cleaner or a handyman or, anybody, right? That has a dentist, a hairstylist, anybody that's in the customer service industry are going to be just like you looking for leads. They're looking for business. So create your own, to use a better lack of word, BNI network. So that is like a branded networking, business to business referral service. There's a lot of requirements and weekly meetings and things that you have to do, but create your own. Like you get your people, have a monthly coffee date and have as many of those people get together once a month as you can. And, let them refer each other, let them refer you. That is a great way to connect people. And you are, as an agent, a keystone of that particular networking group because you have more connections than anyone, and you could use any one of those people at any time for any of your clients. So you've got a lot of weight on your shoulders, a lot of value on your shoulders. So connect with people that will connect exclusively with you. And Caitlin is also agreeing that she wants to look into connections with family divorce attorneys and her accountant. So isn't that great? And if you run into somebody, like I had never had a garage door fail before. And I had one fail and I think I just Googled something. And the guy came out and I was like, hey, I'm a real estate agent and I've just never had to repair a garage door, but I'm sure that I have had sellers that have had garage doors replaced. I don't have a person. Would you be my person? And in doing so, you'd get my referrals, but I'd also want to know if you happen to have referrals and we could work together. And he was like, well, I'm really loyal to XYZ agent, real estate agents, real good friend of mine, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, great. And then you know what? It's not that I'm not going to refer the guy, but I'm going to go look for another garage guy that will be loyal to me. I always want to have extras, heirs, and spares when it comes to contractors because they don't all show up the way we want them to sometimes or have the availability to. So I always want to have a stack of 2-3 names deep of any, plumber, electrician, but the people that are in my circle have to be loyal to me in order to gain top place on my referral list. Okay. So take some pride in your connections and know that you are a connector of people. Okay. Thank you guys for sharing. So now we've got the appointment. Let's talk about some key things. So number one, when it comes to your leads, make sure you're responding right away. You guys have heard speed to lead. So as soon as you have that person ready to go, inquiring, saying yes, get to the lead, call the lead back, can make the connection, get the appointment. Make sure that you're putting your leads into command and you're creating an opportunity and you're following and updating that opportunity as you go. Let the system help you set up reminders and tasks and smart plans so that you don't lose touch with people. All right. The Post-it notes you're writing your stuff down on will fail you at some point. Okay. Determine their motivation to sell so you can speak to it. So we're going to talk about how do we do that? We're going to set an appointment, date and time. Typically ASAP. Sometimes I might strategically put that appointment out 2 or 3, 4 days. Sometimes the seller's just not ready in that amount of time. But the reason that I might not want to be first agent in is if I know that they are interviewing other agents. You could probably talk to 10 realtors and half of them would say be the first and half of them would say be the last. My strategy is I kind of like to be the last. But that's everybody's different how they want to do that. But that would be an opportunity in my mind. Like if I'm chasing an expired and I know they have 2 appointments, I may be wanting the last appointment slot that they have, so that I can go in and they've already compared what other people are saying against what I'm saying. And I know I've got a good opportunity to win, depending on who my competition is. I might ask them who they are interviewing. And then if I know they're interviewing a heavy hitter, that would cut me out right from the start. Then I'll work to get in first. Okay. And then you're going to send a pre-listing packet out ASAP after you set every single appointment. All right. What do sellers want most from their agent? Well, it is kind of a mixed bag. And the largest category here is actually other, which means there's no real prevalent answer. There's nothing that was repeated enough to make the list. But the number one answer that did make the list is to help price the home competitively. So they are looking for your pricing advice. The majority of sellers here are going to listen to you when it comes to what did the house next door sell for that was just like mine. They are looking for that information. They can get some of that off of Zillow, but sometimes they can't see what stuff actually closed for. So they don't really have an idea, is the market is super on fire or is it not? In our area, one of the counties just sent out their appraisals for county taxes, and our area went up 15 to 20% in the last 2 years from our last appraisal. And I was just flabbergasted at how many people were unaware of how home values have risen. And although I get people don't want to pay the higher tax on that, celebrate, like your house just went up 20% in our area. That means you just gained $80,000 to $100,000 on the average sales price. So you should be pretty excited about that. But instead we're all up in arms about things, and that's okay. But do you understand that the public doesn't pay attention as much as you think they do? So it's up to you to give them that pricing advice. And that would be another angle for getting people to sell right now. I'm in the Kansas, Missouri area, Kansas City. And so both sides of state line, the tax appraisals are done every 2 years on the odd years. So we're coming up on the summer where several of the counties are going to start sending those out. And because the market has been so much on fire the past, 3 to 4 years, a lot of people are getting surprised. Sorry. And so this is an opportunity to reach out and see, is their tax appraisal fair? And I know 2 years ago, I was like, don't fight this because they still don't have it right. It's still undervalue of what we could actually sell it for. But that also gave me the opportunity to let people know how much equity they have in their house. And if they want to do a move up, that, they've got an extra, tens of thousands of dollars to work with to get into a better house, into a better price point, or to leverage off the house to buy an investment, to leverage off the house to get themselves out of, credit card debt. Because now with interest rates going up, that could be a thing for some people. So they can use the equity in their home. And even though they might not be selling, if I can be the person that's helping them out, I want them to be able to do that. Next is help the seller market the home. So they're wanting your help in marketing. So make sure that you're talking to that. Like, what are you going to do to sell the house? Don't just put a sign in the yard and pray that it sells. I'm sorry, keeping my hands off my mouse. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm making everybody dizzy probably. Okay. And so then they also want you to sell the home within a specific time frame. So there are some sellers that are very time sensitive. I've got a job, I've got to get transferred. We've got kids we need to get enrolled in school. So we've got to be settled by a certain date in our new area. I've got something I've got to do. So timing is often a big concern for sellers. And a lot of them are afraid of, how much do I have to update? Do I have to fix things? Do I have to do maintenance? And I certainly want to be able to tell a seller in advance, do this, don't do that, because they may about to dump good money into a project that's not going to help them sell the house for any more while they ignore something they didn't realize was a problem. But what I find interesting on this list is, although pricing the home competitively is a pricing issue, it's not actually how much money. Like, I think a lot of times as agents, we get geared up into advocacy and doing the best for our clients, but that doesn't always mean we have to give them every dime that the house is worth. Not that we don't want to do that and we shouldn't do that, but that is not always their main concern. We have a tendency to just assume that it is. So it's interesting to me that it would be 80% of the public here did not quote price enough to make this a trending topic where I need every dollar out of my house. So right now, that is not a concern. So don't get too wrapped up in, I have to get every dime out of this house for the seller or they're going to be unhappy. No, they just want to get on to the next thing. They just want to get over the hurdle that's in their head. So find out what that hurdle is, because there's different reasons here and you never know what theirs is, which is why it's important to get to the client's motivation. So once you've identified that A+ seller that's ready to go, we need to know why. Why are they ready to go? What's going on? And there's no such thing as too many questions. So the way you want to ask questions is to ask non-yes, no questions. In other words, I'm looking for questions that can't be answered with just a yes and a no. There are times when you are going to have to ask yes, no questions. Do you have an agent? Have you set other appointments? Right? There's things that you have to know that's yes, no. However, when you're getting to motivation, I want them to talk to me. I want them to tell me what's going on. Why is this important? So let's make a list. Like, if you're getting ready to talk to a seller and you're either at the appointment or you're setting the appointment on the phone, what are some non-yes, no questions you guys can think of? And this is the time to get out your pen and write on in your book, just somewhere, because I know this exact activity isn't in the book. Just get a blank page and write down, here's some great questions for your conversations and scripting. What do you guys think? Participate, go.
Can you repeat that again?
Yep. I'm looking for non-yes, no questions, such as, when is it important for you to be moved? You can't answer that yes or no. You're actually going to have to give me an answer. But if I said, do you need to be moved by March? You could say yes or no, right? So if I'm looking for questions that typically are going to be asked with a when, how, why, or where, as opposed to an is or are. Yes, Denise, or is your hand up?
Not really, but I was gonna,
I can tell.
I was gonna say, just that. What time frame are you looking to move? Like, how motivated are they, or did they buy something else already? Do they have that to go into, or are they staying in state? And see if start a conversation.
Okay, perfect. So let's get those into questions that we could ask. So what is your ideal time frame? Be really specific. Like, if everything went the way you want it to go, when would you be in your next home and closed and you've got the keys to the new place? Or maybe they've already got that. When is it important for you to no longer have the keys to this place?
When do you want to be in your new home?
When do you want to be in your new home? Okay, that's good. All right, what else you guys got?
What's taking you to the next destination?
Okay, yeah. What is your reason for going to the next place?
How long have you been looking?
Oh, good one. How long?
How much do you need to make off of the sale of your home?
Okay, Excellent. Let's get a couple more.
What happens if you can't find a house to buy?
Love it. I know people sometimes hate that question because it feels negative, but you've got to take a seller through the negative thought process because they've got something in mind if it doesn't work out. And let's just flesh that out now. Let's just get that done. Let's just get over that hump, because if you hear that's not an option, then you know you've got a more motivated seller. Wouldn't you agree? One more. Come on, guys. I'm going to give you some, but I want you guys to think.
What area are you interested in?
Okay, but we're talking to a seller. Let's keep that in mind.
That's right. My bad.
Yeah, we're talking about a seller. So how could you, like, give me another one?
How soon do you want to move?
Okay,
I don't
we
know if
got
that's already been said. That may have already been said. I don't know.
Come on, you can do this. You got this, Abby. Come on.
Has that been said?
Say again.
The time frame? Oh, okay.
How did you hear about my service?
Well, there you go.
That's a good-
How did you hear
that's a
about
good-
me? That's amazing, right? Because we want to know that so we can keep doing whatever that is. And then number two, sometimes how they find you would hit to you about maybe what their motivation is, because maybe they were desperately looking for an agent that specializes in an area and they came across your name or somebody told them. We want to know that stuff. Absolutely. You guys, what if you just asked, what is the most important piece of this sale? Like, what has to happen? Like, what are you most excited to have happen? Or what are you most fearful of happening during the process of the sale? What keeps you up at night? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? Right? You can do the yin and the yang of those questions, because when you get deep down, what are you really worried about when it comes to the sale of this house?
Emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you can get people to open up to you, that forms a trust relationship. The more that they talk, the more they're building a relationship with you just through speech. And the more you have a relationship with people, the more you understand their motivation. And dang, is that going to help you out when it comes down to multiple offers, or you don't get the best, or you end up having to not take a great offer. So it's just a matter of, if you know their hot buttons and, kind of what's important to them, then you can help guide them through a tricky situation. So, okay. Now let me show you, I'm going to screen, just a second here. I'm going to admit somebody in. Okay. I'm going to show you my list. Okay, here we go. Take a screenshot, talk these through. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but I'm going to tell you some of my favorites. What made you decide to sell? What made you decide to buy this home when you bought it? Tell me about any deferred maintenance issues you might be aware of when it comes to this home. One of my favorites is scale of 1 to 10 questions. If you guys have hung out with me at all, I think this is my first time being able to teach this round of Ignite. I taught Ignite After Dark last year. But you know that I love a 1 to 10 question. So on a scale of 1 to 10, from here being 1 and here being 10, where are you at on the scale? I love questions like that, especially when you've got a seller that's maybe not opening up to you, and you can't get their motivation, you can't get their timing, they're non-committal. Sometimes it's, if you turn into a 1 to 10, this isn't exactly a seller situation, but I had a buyer last weekend that was wigged out. We got a new construction house under contract for her, and they started putting up siding that she thought she was going to get to choose, and they didn't give her the choice, and she hated the color. And she was kind of timid and shy to tell us that she hated the color, but I could tell she was upset. She was holding back tears, and I couldn't get her to tell me what she wanted. And finally I said, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being, I can totally live with this. It's a bummer that it happened, but I can totally live with this. And 10 being the color of this, and I do not want to own this house. Where are you at? And she's like 8.5. And I was like, okay, all right, we're going to fix this. But I couldn't get her to come clean with me about how she was really feeling. But the 1 to 10, she could put a number to it. And then I knew, all right, me and my buyer's agent got to work with the builder here to see what her options are. And as it turned out, we were able to get her flipped over to another house, where she can pick the siding color. So she was very happy. But again, if I just assumed that, well, we'll just work with this, she'll be all right, she'll get over it. But that scale 1 to 10 will really tell you where people are at. So that is one of my base base conversations that I have is a 1 to 10. What is your expectation that you want from out of me? So then it's not about the sale. It's about my behavior. It's about what do you want your agent to do for you? So what do you expect? What is your number one expectation of me? How soon are you ready to put the house on the market? Not when do we want to be moved, but how soon do you want this house on the market? Because I want to work at their speed. If they still feel like they need time to get the house staged, ready, painted, we got to do some things, I don't want to push them into listing this weekend. I have other options in MLS to work with that. But I also don't want to assume people need time if they're ready to sign the paper and get the sign in the yard today. They want showings now because maybe they're up against a crisis or a job transfer or something that's going on. So I want to make sure that I understand that completely. If you've sold a home before, how was the process for you? I want to know where people's experiences have been and what like demons in their closet they might have about the selling process, or what went really well and what maybe an agent did for them before that they loved. Well, I want to make sure I do that again. I want them to love me too. So I want to know what their experiences are. On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to doing what needs to be done to sell your home? With 1 being, I'm not doing anything. I want minimal effort. And 10 being, I am willing to do what it takes. I want the best house at the best price possible. Give me that number.
Hey,
So
Carolyn,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm kind of new.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, do you read this as you're speaking to them on the phone, or do you have this in your head already? Are you doing a presentation in front of them? How would you go about asking these questions?
Yeah. So first of all, I have another form called a seller questionnaire, which I will share with you guys. That does have some of the basic questions so that you don't forget. And I have this also in front of me. Now, a lot of this I have committed to memory. Like this is 20 years looking at you. So I've got some of this down. And yet I still need helpers. So I still have, a list of questions when I struggle. I don't have it with me tonight, but I usually have a lead book with me at all times in my briefcase, so that when I get that seller lead or somebody calls or surprises me out of my database, I've got that lead book and it's got like my 10 best questions on it. So it's like one page is like, name, phone number, address, that's the stuff I need, and then information about their house. And then on the back of each page is the script helpers. So I can refer to that while I'm talking to them in case I do get a little odd or, deer in the headlights ish, or they caught me in a moment where my head's not in the game 100%. So as long as I can get started, then I'm usually pretty good. But sometimes I need help with getting started. I have a similar book for my buyer's agent because on my team, my buyers just do buying. So I gave her a book where she's got scripts for the buyer questions. So how to ask yes, no questions of the buyers to get them to talk while she's getting her head together, or shifting her gears if she gets like a sign call out of the blue, which we're getting more of that now. So, commit to memory 3 to 5 questions that you can ask off the cuff, no matter what, that are great questions to get them talking so you can get your head together. Because if you ask yes, no questions, then it's over. So, and it's okay to ask yes, no questions. I mean, there are times when you just have to. But the more you can get people to talk, the more you can get them to expound on things. This is really going to help you out. I will put into chat tonight my email address. And if anybody wants materials that aren't part of the slideshow, I will be happy to send those out. So there's my email. You guys just email me, give me a minute. Like it might take me a day to get this back to you. I'll try to get everybody as fast as I can. But I'll give you this sheet. Let me give you, and since you are brand new, and I know a lot of people on this call are, let me give you something else that I used to do. At my consultations, whether it was buyer or seller, when I first started out, I did have this page and then my buyer page, and I had like the order of the consultations of here's what we say, and then here's what we say next. And I just had the starters of each little topic or subject. And I had that large enough font in a notebook that I would set down on the floor, and then with that page open, so they couldn't see what was on the floor. And then if I got lost, I'd drop a pen and then look at my sheet. So if that helps somebody out, I'm happy to give you that little tip of advice, that piece of advice. So, write down your best script questions, the order of the presentation, anything that you get tripped up on, and just have that in a book with you. And you know what? It's okay to have a book to look out of. Like, have you ever been like to an auto parts store? Like you can't, I mean, some guys you could walk in and gals, you could walk in and say, oh, I need a light bulb for a, 2014, Nissan, whatever. But they get in a book, right? And they look up the part number. It's okay if at times you need to consult your book, look like an expert. It's all right. Don't feel so self-conscious about that. Okay, so I'm going to stop share on that and we're going to go back to my PowerPoint. All right, so we're going to ask for the appointment. We're going to set a date and time where all parties who own the home or on the deed are together. In most states, somebody that is in a married relationship, one person can buy, but if they're going to sell and they're legally married, two people or have to sign the listing agreement. So make sure that you have all parties with you. This past weekend, I had a seller who it's 3 siblings and they inherited together a piece of property that they're selling and they're all married. So I had to have 6 people at the listing consultation per our state rules. So I told them all, like, I need all of the spouses there because I want everybody to hear the same information at the same time and be able to get signatures and have a legal binding listing agreement at the table. I'm a little old fashioned. So I show up with pen and paper and you sign before I leave and you hand me a key. I'm going to take that listing. I am not screwing around with .loop, DocuSign, anything else. I'm getting the signatures and that listing is mine. Now, the peripheral paperwork, we can always catch up digitally. That's totally fine. But I'm at least getting that listing agreement signed that night. That's just the way I roll. All right. Make sure that they have uninterrupted time to meet. I don't need hours, but I want to at least have 1 solid hour where, we're not going to have somebody leave the room to go pick up kids or something's going on or chaos is happening in the house. I want them to be able to focus while I work through with them their motivations and their reasons for selling. And I just want to check in on all of that. But do ask for as much time as you need. I don't want you to say, oh, I just need 30 minutes. And then you're there for 2 hours and they're stressed out. So if you need an hour and a half, just tell them I would need about, 60 to 90 minutes of your uninterrupted time and longer if you have questions, but shorter if you don't, just kind of let people know what you're expecting. All right. So now let's talk about the seller's questionnaire. So you're going to have a sheet. And let me just go ahead and get to that. This is my seller interview sheet. You're welcome to take a screenshot. I'm also happy to make this bigger on the PowerPoint if you need me to. This is kind of like the lead sheet. So what I did is I copied off like 50 of these, took it up to Kinko's and had them put it in a spiral book, and I laminated a cover. So it's a little more heavier duty in my briefcase. So I just have this lead sheet that has the questions on it. And then I've got other script helpers on the other side on the back side of each sheet. So this just goes through the questions that I do want to make sure that I cover. These are my basics. But then I've got my favorites, like the working the motivation. If I'm not connecting with the seller and I need more information, then I've got those deeper conversation questions. But at minimum, if you guys get through this list or the majority of this list, not every question on this list is always necessary to ask. And I don't necessarily want to take an hour on the phone. And then, like drag it on. If I can just set the appointment, I can do some of this at the appointment as well. But if I can get through some of this, it lets me know what to expect and it helps me to be prepared for that particular seller. So this is my questionnaire. Okay. So why do we want to use that questionnaire? Well, the reason is because we want to be professional. All professionals use some sort of a questionnaire. Who here has been to a doctor recently? Raise your hand. Somebody interact with me. All right, Tristan. So when you went to the doctor, first of all, you had to set the appointment, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened when you set the appointment?
I had to confirm a time, a day. And of course, if you need to be there early, all of that was discussed over the phone.
Okay. Did you talk about what was wrong with you? Why you were setting the appointment?
Yeah. What's your reason for coming in? Just basic information.
Okay, perfect. And then assuming that you also, got to the appointment and you checked in probably at a receptionist, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then what happened?
I had to sit there and wait.
To sit there and wait. Okay. Well, now, did the receptionist give you any paperwork?
No.
Okay. Is this a doctor you go to a lot?
Yeah, everything's pretty much pre-filled, online.
Okay. Yes, because now you can do that digitally a little bit easier, but yet did you have to do that at some point?
Yeah, at some point I had to go in and put in basic information.
Okay. And you probably answered a lot of questions about your health history and prescriptions, drugs, vitamins you take, right? Things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And so you filled all that out, gave it back to the receptionist or turned it in advance. And then what happens when you get called?
I'm brought into a room and said the doctor will be with you shortly. A nurse comes in, checks my vitals, asks me if I have any questions or any concerns. They reiterate, okay, this is why you're here. Is there anything that we should know about? Are you on any prescriptions? Updating my file if anything has changed in the last 5 years or whatever. And then after that, all that's done, they ask if I have any questions, and I say no. And then they say the doctor will be in a few minutes.
Okay, and then you get to wait some more.
Yeah.
And then, and then the doctor comes in, and then what happens?
He reiterates again.
You have to do all that again, right? Okay, are you guys following me? Okay, like there's like, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 opportunities there for you to answer the same question 4 times. Why did they do that?
I
To
would
confirm
assume
it's correct.
Maybe you forget
Accuracy.
something.
In case you forget something, and I think somebody said something else I missed.
I just said to confirm it's correct. All the information is correct.
Yeah, to confirm it's all correct. To make sure it's accurate. Sometimes your memory doesn't get jogged until you actually have that moment to think, right? Or there's more problems that, oh, I forgot that I was on, I did this or this happened or whatever. So absolutely, like you guys are no different. You're professional, and professionals fill out forms and they ask a lot of questions. And every profession has a discovery session, whether it's a dentist, whether it's a lawyer, whether it's an accountant, anybody that has a high level of accountability and advocacy for their clients are going to ask you a lot of questions. You cannot fix what you do not know is broken. So when you accept a seller's, lackadaisical answer, sometimes you're skipping over the most important thing because they're just not yet comfortable to tell you something deep down that's happening to them that could impact the speed of the sale, the amount of the sale, underlying reason for selling. That is really important for you to know. Okay. So I want you to use questionnaires, use your non-yes, no questions, have predetermined conversations that you're willing to get deep with your sellers to get them to talk. And don't just tell and sell. Okay. Get to know them and figure this stuff out. The deeper you go, the deeper your relationship will be, and the happier they will be at the end of the sale, and they'll want to refer you. All right. Also on the questionnaire, I want to determine sellability. So I want to know like what kind of shape is the house in? What kind of updates have they been consistent with, keeping things up, or are things a little older, things are a little tired. What do they think their neighborhood sells for? What is their financial motivation? Is there a mortgage, and what is the balance? Like, you can't be afraid to get up in there and ask some of these questions, because you've got to know. Right now, we're not dealing in a period of time economically where a lot of our sellers are underwater, upside down in their houses. But I came into the business and learned through 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, where people were underwater. And, if they bought a house for $200,000, it's now worth $160,000. They might have a loan for $190,000, and now we're short $30,000. I needed to know what that loan balance was, so I would know what I needed to do next in order to help them move on. Determine motivation. Why are they moving? What would happen if they didn't sell? What financial hardships do they have? Use a 1 to 10 use a 1 to 10 scale if there's something that you're not being able to get out of that particular seller. So don't, just remember to use that. That's a great 1 to 10 is my favorite. And then build a relationship, get to know them. What do they do? Why did they choose the home? What did they love about the neighborhood? What's their favorite part of the house? Get to know them as people as well. Okay. All right. That's the questionnaire. We already been through that. And then closing is close to appointment tactics. I think you guys have been through this with on the buying side. This was probably talked about pretty hard. One thing that I do want to tell you is tie down. So I've kind of like, if you guys have noticed, like sometimes when I interact with you, I'll give you a, don't you think, or isn't that right? Or don't you agree? And that is a tie down. So when you say something that makes sense and the only right answer is to agree with you, you just ask them to agree with you. The more that you can get them to agree with you and that you have them in your line of thinking, the better off you are. And so that is called a tie down. That's one of my favorites, is, where I'm going to tell them like, don't you think that, getting your house painted and neutralized and ready for sale will get you a better bottom dollar? Because who's going to say no to that? A crazy person. And when they say no to that, then I've got work to do. Like it either means that maybe they don't have the ability. And so that's going to be a pricing issue. Like we just have to price correctly to allow for that. Or I need to work harder to establish that, we need to prep the house for sale and get down to the bottom of that. Okay. When a question is asked, make sure you answer it. And when an objection comes up, make sure that you address it. I think that's just common sense. All right, now let's talk about the 1-step or 2-step listing appointment. So if you are familiar and comfortable with a particular neighborhood where you have an opportunity to work with a seller, it may be that a 1-step appointment is absolutely fine. If they're in, I don't know, for lack of a better word, tract housing, where there's 3 floor plans and everybody has the same 3 floor plans, and it's just this one has gray and that one has farmhouse and that one has modern, then there's probably not a lot of varying pricing that you really need to work hard on. So if you can find, that floor plan sold 5 times in the past 6 months, it's probably not necessary to do a 2-step appointment. But if you're brand new, you're not familiar with a particular area, or you're not sure of the seller's ability to communicate the house condition, and you're not, like how many updates are there? Or what does it really look like? What does it smell like? Sometimes that's important. And so then doing a 2-step listing appointment might be a smarter way to go. Also, as an established agent, I will 2-step an appointment for anything that's custom or luxury, because there's too many key factors in, unique homes, or, the house that maybe is the biggest house in a neighborhood. So you're not going to be able to get comps just right out of that neighborhood, or it's an unusual situation. You've got an unusual house or something that's that's acreage in the city, or, just something that's a little different. Then I want to do a 2-step appointment. And even with the experience that I have, I'm doing a 2-step appointment. So I'm not shy to do it. It's just not always necessary for me to do it if I'm in a neighborhood that I know like the back of my hand. So when you set your appointments, it's okay to say, it is my standard that I will come to the house 15 minutes max. I just want to look through it very quickly, get an idea of your updates, the condition of the home, take a look at the floor plan, some of your features. I'm going to make notes on that. And then I'll go back, do the market analysis, and then I'll come back and do the listing appointment. And this will save us time, and I'll be way better prepared to give you a market analysis. And so that's how that script would kind of sound when I'm setting a 2-step appointment. Otherwise, I'm just going to set the listing appointment and go on. Regardless of which way you go here with that, I want you to preview any available home. Or if your market has these, show for backup homes, meaning they have an offer, but the seller is still accepting showings for backup offers. You have the right to preview those properties. And so there's nothing like knowing what the competition is. And trust me, the sellers know what the competition is. They've been looking at Zillow, Realtor.com, whatever it is, the KW app, whatever their media source is for this information, they're checking that stuff out. So they know that the neighbor's house up the street is priced at X, and they know that somebody 3 months ago had their house priced at Y, and they know the neighborhood next door has 5 houses for sale, and their kitchen doesn't compare to their kitchen, and our living room is better than theirs, and our deck is bigger than that. They know that stuff. And so when you're sitting at the table and they bring that up to you, and you can say, oh, wait a minute, I've been in that house. Like I was just in there a couple of days ago. I know that, their kitchen is better or isn't better. Or, when you have that street knowledge, that is golden, and it'll make you so comfortable when you're making your pricing decisions, when you do see the house, the subject house for yourself, you'll know how it compares to what buyers have to choose from at that moment. So I would at least try to get 5 to 8 houses previewed, closest houses to the subject property, regardless of even if they're direct comps. Like, don't worry about, oh, that one's a 3-car and mine's a 1-car, this one's a 2-car and I have a 1-car. Just get into some houses. The more that you can do that, the better off you're going to be. You should be doing that as part of Ignite anyway. You should be previewing 10 houses a week. So when you have a listing appointment, just do all your previews around that subject property, because that market knowledge is golden, and your sellers are going to think you are the king or queen of the market because you know it like the back of your hand. It's just so valuable to have that experience. So I do want you guys to preview. All right. What have you guys learned so far to this point? We're about ready to transition into the listing appointment itself. So we got to do the pre-list, but what have you learned so far?
I like the idea of the preview appointment first. I never heard of that.
Awesome. Yes, it's just so amazing when you can say, I've been in that house and you know what? This or that, right? It smells like cat pee. Because again, that's important information. You can't smell a photo. You just can't. All right. What else? Who's got something? You guys aren't making me feel good. Are you not learning anything?
I had a question.
Ooh, okay. I got 2 of you at once. Christina, go first.
Thank you. Do you have a listing appointment presentation by chance that we could go by?
I am going to show that to you tonight.
I think a good point that you made, it's okay to have a reference guide. Like, we can take our cheat sheets and whatever we need to just kind of help make everything transition smoothly.
Absolutely. Set yourself up for success, not failure. That's what I say. Absolutely. One of the scripts I used when I first got into the business and was struggling with the forms and the paperwork is, it was amazing that our board would change the language on the forms every single month. That didn't really happen. That happened once a year. But I would tell this, oh, you know what? They just came out with a new form. Let me check that. Let me read that again. And then I would just read it out loud to them. And then they'd be, oh yeah, we understand it. Because sometimes people just, they just need to read it, or you read it and then you understand what it means. And so I use that line a lot when I was got caught off guard with what does this paragraph mean? Or, oh, you know what? We just had those forms updated. Okay. Something else that might help you guys too, if you're brand spanking new, is take your board forms or whatever forms you're using, state forms, and extrapolate a couple of sentences about what each section or paragraph means, like a summary. So this paragraph just means that we're going to start listing the house on this date and end it on that date. This paragraph means I get to put a sign in the lockbox in the yard. This paragraph means they're allowing me to share photos. This paragraph means that they're giving me that I'm working in their best interest and I'm going to be their advocate. This paragraph means they have to fill out the disclosures and, we can't lie and cheat and steal and all that. And, this paragraph means I get paid a commission and it's based on this. And this paragraph means this. So, that was something that my teacher in real estate made me do right from the get-go. And that was also part of my cheat book, was I had those sentences written down so I could explain those paragraphs in my own words. So hopefully that helps you guys out. And it's okay to have that and reference it. So don't be shy.
That's
Can I make
really
it?
Good information.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it helps. It helps you because it forces you to get through the forms too. So if you're having some trepidation about that, then do that extrapolation. Gosh, I'm using big words tonight. That's crazy. Okay. All right, guys.
I have a question as far as going over the listing and figuring out a sale price other than the comps. Like, what if obviously for me, new, that how can you feel confident in what, I'm like, I need my broker to come and hold my hand through this first one, but I don't know how, you could be sure of yourself for that.
It'll get easier over time. Let me share something with you that somebody at Keller Williams taught me a long time ago. One of the classes, it was Tony DeCello. He's a big agent and was part of the MAPS. He was a MAPS coach. He taught a class called Pricing Strategy way back when the market was trashy. And his advice was, you need to make one of two things true when you price a house. Number one, you have the same house as everybody else. So relatively condition, update wise, there might be some minor differences, but I've got, pretty much the same house as everybody else that's selling in my neighborhood or close to me. But you're going to have the best price. So I've got the same house as everybody else, but I've got the best price. That house will sell. Or I've got the same price as everybody else, but I've got the best house. So I've got the one with the updated bathroom. I've got the one with the updated kitchen. I've got the extra car garage. I've got the extra bathroom. I've got the finished basement. There's still things that you'll charge more for. It's worth more because you have more. But relatively, if you've got a little bit better of a presentation, you've got a little more features. If you price the same as everybody else, won't your house sell first? Because people will see the value in it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So same house as everybody else, but I've got a better price, or I've got the same price as everybody else, but I've got the best house. You guys make buying decisions like that every single day. You go into the store and you're buying I don't know, who just bought a big ticket item that wants to share? Somebody buy a car, computer, refrigerator. Okay, let's pick on a refrigerator for a second. I go into the appliance store and there's 3 refrigerators sitting on the shelf and they're all the same price. They're all pretty much the same deal and they're all offering free delivery and takeaway of my old appliance if I need it. But one of them has 2 extra cubic square foot and one of them has the fancy ice in the door and it'll talk to me and give me my grocery list. I don't know. That's a thing now, right? So, so if all things being equal, if I'm open to all of those features, I'm going to pick the best refrigerator that has the most features. Do you guys agree? I'll take that as a yes. So that was a tie down. All right. So so you're going to make those decisions. Now, if I have the same refrigerator, they're all the same, they all have the same features, but one is $100 cheaper, all things being equal, I'm going to pick the one that's $100 cheaper. So no matter what the market could be on fire, the market could be in the dump, the market could be even. But if I can make one of those statements true, that house will still sell. So when you're looking at your pricing, go back and look. And so let's just say you think the house will sell for $350 and the comps that you do, you just feel like that's the right price. Well, then go back and look at the active competition and see, does $350 make sense for this 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage? Or for $350, can I find a 5-bedroom, 3-car garage with 4 baths and a finished basement, right? Like, can I find better houses for that same amount of money? And if I can, in the immediate area, same school, same, like you're in the relative same area, right? And it doesn't make sense, then that might not be the right price. But if it does make sense, or you can make that price look amazing for that house and the seller's willing to meet you there, then that's probably the right price. So that's always a way to test what you're thinking. And that's why previewing the houses are so important, because then you've got that street knowledge yourself of how those houses actually stack up. Because let me tell you, photographers can make a house look pretty good online. It can make a kitchen look like it's the best remodel ever. And then you get into the house and it's like, oh my God, that's just like painted over counters and that's painted over this and this isn't right. So getting into these houses is really super important, and really knowing what that competition is. And that's where your pricing needs to live, no matter what the market, because the solds 3 months ago, that's ancient history in today's market. We're moving too fast, up or down. We're moving fast. The solds that you looked at 6 months ago, which would have been like midsummer, end summer, well, we were just going through our interest rate hikes. So the pricing looks different to a buyer after we lost our 3 and 4 interest rate, 3 and 4% interest rate last year, which in our area kind of happened in like the midsummer. So if I'm looking at comps during that time, like there was a little like a panic in the market because now we're up at 7-8%. And buyers are freaking out. So I don't want to price something that was sold last January when the interest rates were still amazing and the buyers were still on fire. I want to look at something that's a little more recent. But then once I get that price, how does that look in today's market? What do buyers have to choose from? So if you can kind of look at it from that. Now, I used to tell my flippers when I worked with a lot of investors, I would say make both statements true. Now that's hard to get somebody to do, but if you can have the best house at the best price, that house will have competitive offers no matter what the situation, or it will sell very, very fast and relative to the competition. So if you have the best house at the best price, that's multiple offers in today's market. You just got to be able to convince a seller to do it. And again, some sellers are so unaware of what their houses are really worth that they almost are in disbelief as to what the houses are worth. So they're willing to do that. They're willing to underprice just a little bit because they just can't conceptualize that the house is worth that much. Does that help you, Denise?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. And always rely on your broker, rely on your productivity coaches if you have them, rely on your ALC, rely on your experienced agents in the office. Your agent leadership council in the office should always be willing to take your call or take a consultation with you because that's what they're there for. They're agent leaders to help you. So rely on those resources. Okay. If not, I can't help you with pricing because I don't know your market, but I need to get you in contact with somebody that maybe can. All right. So you got my email, you know what to do. Okay. All right. Let's go back. Great question. I hope that helps you guys. All right. Pre-listing packets. So pre-listing packets are something that I send out to the sellers in advance of our listing appointment. It is a pre-sell packet, meaning I'm going to build that seller's confidence. I'm going to maybe get to some common questions that I know they're probably going to ask me, and I'm going to provide them with some information and some answers. It could be just a seller's guide. And guess what? You've got one in Command that you can download and customize if you want to. You don't have to. You can strip all the personal information out of it and just have a generic seller's guide that you put in your packets. And that is absolutely fine. There are some pre-listing packets that some agents do and make on their own, and that's totally fine as well. It could just be a letter that states you have an appointment and here's some homework I'd like you to work on. It doesn't have to be a fancy thing. But what I'm looking to do with a pre-listing is save time and make the consultation experience smoother by tackling some things up front. So if it belongs in the pre-list packet, it will meet this criteria. Are you going to review it in the listing presentation? Does it eliminate the need for a listing consultation? Is it a primer for education that you will provide during the appointment itself? And therefore, does it save you time at the appointment, or does it save your seller time at the appointment? And if the answer is yes to any of that, then it belongs in the listing presentation. But again, I train a lot of agents to do pre-listing packets, and I bet you less than 5% actually do a pre-listing packet with their sellers. And all agents across the country are, if they're with a brokerage that cares, will train a pre-listing packet to them. And again, it is very rare that I show up at when I'm competing for a listing and another agent has actually given a pre-listing packet. And so it doesn't matter what it is. If it's just a letter that says, hey, we have an appointment tomorrow, don't forget, I'm good with that. Like get something to the door, get a seller's guide out of Command, have them download your app. I don't care what it is. Don't overthink this. Just get something out there. What I do not put in the pre-listing packet is any kind of CMA specific to their neighborhood or their house. I might do something overall, like the MLS statistics for our entire metro area. I might do county, one county, but I don't even do their subdivision. I don't give them any hint as to what I'm thinking for the pricing, because if I haven't seen the house and I don't know, or if they can read through between the lines and, oh, I don't like the way she's going, maybe we'll just cancel the appointment. So I don't want to give them any hope on something. Or we do agree on the price, but then I get there and it's pet ridden, there's problems, there's a leak in the ceiling, and now I can't give them their price and they're disappointed. So I stay away from specific pricing information and just stick to general market statistics if I choose to do that. The guide in Command, this is what it looks like. This is one version of what it can look like. There's actually 4 versions, different looks and color backgrounds that you can get. And where you find this is by logging into Command, going to the designs, creating a design, go to print, and then find your guides on the left-hand side. There'll be templates available to you, and then you can complement reading this. You can customize this with your name or your seller's name on it, but you don't have to. You can strip all of that out, and then just have a generic, seller's guide that you can hand off to anybody. That's totally up to you. The next thing that goes in the pre-listing packet for me is the letter. Oops, sorry guys. That just simply states that we have an appointment. So this is the, make this a little bit bigger for y'all. Let me move this over so you can see it. So it's just got their name at the top, preparation of our appointment at 1 o'clock on Monday, enclosed as a pre-sale packet. We hope you'll have a few minutes to look through it. You'll find some tips, whatever, seller's guide. If you're not providing that, then you're just gonna stop here and just say we have an appointment. I'll see you then. But you will do the next part, which is clip to the packet, is a list of information you may want to have available when you are ready to move forward to list your home. Again, we are grateful for the opportunity to be considered. Okay, and then it's just my signature down here at the end.
Are you emailing this?
You
Or
can
you're
email it.
mailing?
I'm a drop-off girl. So
Okay.
you don't have time typically to mail something unless you do. And if you do, that's fine. Or if it's, way far across town, you may even choose to expedite, like pay for a FedEx or an overnight through the post office to have this sent out. I mean, for $20-$30, if you're going to make, 4 or 5 figures on the listing, it's worth a $20 mail out to get this to them ASAP. But typically these listings are going to be in your general area. So I'll just drive, on my way home that night, I just drop off my, any pre-list packets that I have at the seller's houses. It also gives me a chance to see the outside. I am not looking to, unless it's a 2-step appointment. If it's a 2-step appointment, then I'm going to just hand this to them at the first step. But if it's not a 2-step appointment, I'm just looking to sneak it on their front door somewhere and run, as I'm not looking to have a long conversation or get engaged in like 2 appointments with them. And I'll let them know, like, if you want a commitment to drop this pre-list packet, tell them when you set the appointment, hey, by the way, I'm going to be dropping off a packet of information for you. And that'll tie you down to having to absolutely drop this packet.
Where can we find this package?
I will, again, if you guys want to, and I'll put my email back in chat for you guys when we're done here. I will email you mine. Mine is a very antiquated, though, which just goes to show you it doesn't have to be fancy. Mine is probably from like 2008. It was an old guide that I've edited a little bit, taken out a page, added another page. And it's not even the whole thing, because I might add market statistics or something else to it. But the seller's guide in Command can be that packet. That's actually what mine is. It's just a version from like 15 years ago that I've kind of finagled with. But it's done and I just go with it, and it doesn't matter. What you're doing is setting a precedence that I'm a professional. Here's my packet. Here's my information. Do what I say. so that's what all it is. And it does some of the heavy lifting so that I don't have to talk as much at the appointments. Just gonna see if I don't know if I actually opened mine up. I don't want to like waste here, maybe here. Here we go. All right, this is mine. And again, I want to email this to you because it's several pages. But this is a very simple, very dummied down pre-sale package. It just talks about what I do, what I deliver, why Keller Williams. If you have testimonials, you can stick your testimonials in. I have a small staging checklist. I go into great details, but it's what anybody could get off the internet. I have the hint that I have a strategic partner list. So if they need, a moving company, handyman services, a plumber, cleaner, I know people. I don't give my people, because I've made that mistake where I start giving out my inside, people, and they list with somebody else and use my people, but not me. That makes me upset. So I don't like that. So they don't get my resources until they sign the listing. And then I've got some, these you can find, I believe that the seller's guide has some updated ones of these. These are just kind of what I call static statistics, that pricing, buyers determine the value, not what you need, not what you want, not what you paid. This is a little chart that shows like the longer that something is on the market, the less buyer interest it will get. This is from the Shift book. And so this is the cost of overpricing in a stable market. For many years, I had the cost of overpricing in a declining market. You also have overpricing in an inclining market. So the ship book has all three of these. So I'll exchange these out. And then I will let people know that I do have a marketing plan. I don't give details on what that plan is because I've in the past put that in my packets and then had a seller cancel an appointment and I'm like, well, why did you cancel? And they're like, well, you didn't say in your marketing plan that you did. I don't remember what it was, that you didn't do XYZ. Well, I do XYZ. I just didn't highlight it in the plan. And so I'm like, wait, but I do that. Like, if that's important to you, we'll absolutely do that. And they were like, oh, well, okay. We just didn't think you did. We think that's important. And I was like, so anyway, I kind of learned to just be general and then go to specifics at the appointment itself. And then this is the diamond letter. If you have nothing else in this packet, you will have this letter. And what this is I'm going to have that pre-listing packet stapled together. So, or the seller's guide for you guys. The introduction letter that says we have an appointment. Don't forget, I'll see you then. And then this letter is separate and binder clipped to this. You guys will have to write this down. I think I have it in the PowerPoint. You are going to put a seller's guide. I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. Seller's disclosure. Any state disclosures that you have, or was disclosures that apply to the property if there's land, or I don't know, we have things now that's like a swimming pool disclosure, things like that, depending on the area that you're in. You may have different disclosures. Anything that the seller can fill out in advance that might take them time or research to fill out, like utility list of the average utilities. I want to give that to them in advance because nothing is more fun than sitting across the seller at a listing appointment and watching somebody argue over what year was the roof put on the house, or, what year did we install the air conditioner or whatever. So I want to try to give them that stuff in advance. So clipped to this is the seller's guide, the average utility list, update list, anything like that I can think of. Then in this letter, it states, I would like you to have a copy of your mortgage statement payoff, any second mortgages, home working line of credit, any debt that is secured by the house if the home is financed. I want that so that I know the balances and I can see the interest rate so I can prepare the seller's estimated proceeds sheet and I can do the prorates right. I want a copy of any invoices, warranties, or guarantees for improvements or updates because I want to put those in my marketing packet for the house. HOA restrictions and any recent communication from the HOA, such as newsletter, website, address, anything that I can get from the HOA, I love to put in the seller's disclosure packets and in my marketing books at the house. Latest county city tax bill information, especially if that's not available. I mean, I think most counties now are available online to get that information, but it's still nice to have the seller just follow directions. Any tax assessment information that applies to your neighborhood, land survey if they have it, and a spare set of keys to your garage doors, front door, sheds, whatever it is. Then take a moment to fill out the seller's disclosure update list and information sheets attached to this packet. If you have any of the information available at our appointment, it would be helpful. So what happens is, if I have an appointment with the seller, I drop this packet off, I knock on the door, I walk in, and sitting on the dining room table is a filled out seller's disclosure, a mortgage statement, tax bill, HOA rules, and a set of keys. You think I got the appointment? Think I got the listing? Yes, I do. Can I stop selling myself? I mean, you can't stop selling yourself, but you probably got it in the bag. I'm going to tell you, of all of the sellers I have ever had appointments with, I've only had one fill out all of that paperwork in advance, and I didn't take the listing. And it was because we got a massive disagreement about the price of the house. That was one where I'm like, we're not going to agree. And I don't want to waste my time. So we agreed to disagree and I walked away. Every other seller that pre-filled that information out was workable, doable, came to an agreement, was willing to, for the most part, willing to price where I wanted it priced. They followed instructions, they filled out the forms, and they were ready to go. Now, are there times that I get to the appointment and nothing is filled out? Yes. Like life happens sometimes. Sometimes I'll drop the packet. They didn't catch it. They forgot to check the front door. They come in the garage and they don't go use their front door. They didn't see it. It didn't get mailed, fast enough. They didn't have time to get through it. That does happen. That doesn't mean you're not going to get the listing. In fact, usually I still get the listing. I just don't have the time save of having some of that information reviewed or filled out in advance. So they're kind of scrambling at the appointment to kind of make things happen, but that's okay. For the ones that do, if I save myself 20 to 30 minutes per appointment over the course of a career, that's time that I can spend with my family, with myself, doing things I love, or going on the next appointment. So I am all about it. And when I drop these packets, it just sets the precedence. I am the professional. Here's my rules. Here's how I work. Here's what's going on. Here's what's great about me. Here's what other people are saying about me. You guys will build these packets over time to be the amazing thing. And again, and I can't say this enough, if all you get out is the letter stating you have an appointment and the letter asking them to fill out the seller's disclosure, and that's all you get done, do it, because it's worth it. It's worth giving that seller the impression that I've got a system, I've got a plan, follow me, let's go. All right, feedback right now.
That was a lot.
I know, right? Okay, cool. What's your
I have a question about, I am unmuted. So like you said, if you discontinue with somebody you just can't agree, that's fine. But we were talking about referrals before, and then could you suggest somebody with, you're like, I have somebody you can work with, and what if they just, say no thank you, I'm going to just choose a whole different brokerage or whatever altogether, and then you lose that referral?
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, because if they're not workable and they're not open
You
to
don't want to
advice,
send them to your people.
yeah, why do I want to set somebody else up for failure? Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. Again, you're not going to get every listing appointment. You're not going to choose to take every listing appointment. So you've got to, that's why having a big funnel and a lot of leads is important, so that you have choices. And when people don't choose you, which is, we don't like to talk about not being successful, but it's just a fact of life. You're not going to get along with every single seller. As a newer agent, I got real fixated with one particular seller about her decor. And I felt like with the market declining, things needed to be a certain color, and, staging needed to be done. And it did. I mean, I wasn't wrong. But I offended her, and I didn't realize it until like halfway through the appointment, that like right up at the get-go, I jacked up. And my husband was like, I could tell by the look on his face, like, I said something wrong, but I don't know what I said wrong. And then we get in the car, and he's like, yeah, you lost her at, whatever it was that I was kind of like, I don't know if buyers really like this color or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, did I offend? Did I really offend her? I didn't really realize that I did. And it taught me a big, huge lesson. So you're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen. And yet you can't let that not let you do the next appointment and talk to the next seller. And, your desire to make a business out of this has got to be bigger than one failed appointment. If you get somebody that's just not falling in line, just don't worry about that. It'll be okay. Like, it's okay to say no, and it's okay to not get every deal. Just keep trying, keep on to the next one. Okay. So you're going to deliver the pre-listing packet, confirm that date and appointment, make sure all your decision makers are there, complete and practice your listing presentation. We don't practice on our clients. We practice on each other. So get a buddy in your office, get a buddy in this class to help you get on Zoom and do your consultations with each other. Review that lead sheet and arrive to the listing presentation in a professional, absolute manner. Okay, we already did the ahas. So now let's get to the appointment, because we're winding down. Okay, your goal is to get a signed listing agreement. We all know that. So I'm just going to skip to a couple of things here. All right. First of all, we're going to arrive at the listing. So it's the day of the listing appointment. I want you to know there are Ring cameras, or whatever security cameras that people use now, that are all over the houses. They know when you pull in the driveway, that is not the time to do your hair, fix your makeup, and put on your suit jacket. Like, that should already be done, or however you're doing. Like, do not get dressed in the car. You need to show up ready to go, because they're watching you. When you get out of the car, have a notepad or something that you're writing notes down. I don't care if it's like, don't freak out, but you're writing notes about, maybe it's need to paint the front door. Fresh mulch would be great. Awesome curb appeal, and some damaged siding. Like, make some notes about the house as you're pulling up. This time of year, you might be pulling up on the house and it's dusk. By the time you're done, if you want to do a walk around the house, it's going to be dark. So, take that time to kind of look around the outside a little bit and then get to the front door, knock on that door, ring the doorbell. And then when the door opens, always take a step back. So that shows the seller that you are not a threat. Okay, that you're not there to invade space, that you're there to be of service. All right, you're going to get a place at the table. If at all possible, do not sit in the living room. Do not sit across from each other in recliners and couches. You're too far away and you can't present facts and figures properly. I've had to make exceptions for that, but I'm going to try very hard not to do that. I want to sit at a table. The other thing I want to tell you is do not sit at a table where you are watching a tennis match between the sellers, that there's multiple sellers in the situation. You always want to put yourself so that you are sitting with the sellers in the same line of sight. So as I'm presenting across the table diagonally. I can see both people. I can watch their eyes. If I'm across the table, it's like a ping pong going on. I have a hard time focusing on each person. And I want to be able to see how the multiple sellers in the situation are receiving information if at all possible. Sometimes it's impossible, but a lot of times you can absolutely set yourself up for success at the table just by being able to present in one direction. So that's a huge, massive tip that a lot of agents don't do. They don't know to do that. So it makes it more awkward. Once I sit down at the table, I have a little seller information form, and it's just basically the lead sheet. I'm just asking them to fill it out. So I just have a small, it's almost like a guest card for an open house, like what's your name, what's your email addresses, one for each, person in the sale. So if I need to go to digital signatures, I've got the email addresses, I've got the cell phone numbers, I've got everything I need for everybody in the transaction. While they're doing that, I will ask to go preview the house myself or do a quick tour. I'm doing that to save time so that I'm not doing the tour and taking an hour while they take me by the hand and tell me all the stories. Now, look, if they want to tell me all the stories, that's great. And it's bonding time. But if you are on a time crunch or you've got another appointment to get to after, you'll save time by doing the appointment by yourself. Some sellers just aren't comfortable with you doing that. And if that happens, that's okay. Go ahead and have them come with you. Again, it's good bonding time. But if you can get them to fill out something, then that's great. So this is the order of the listing appointment itself. So we're going to discuss the questionnaires again, right? So this is like you get to the doctor's appointment and the receptionist meets you and and then we get to see the nurse and then we get to see the doctor and they're doing it all again. So and remember, you may have talked to one of multiple parties that are selling a house. And if you only have the one viewpoint, you may be alienating somebody else that has concerns and you're not addressing that. So for example, if you've got a married couple and one spouse is getting transferred and they're moving to Florida, that spouse may be super excited, but the other spouse may not be excited about this move. They're going to do it because they love each other and they're going to support each other, but they may be giving up a job. They may be giving up closeness to family, friends, people that they are counting on. That they're having to walk away from in order to make this move. So if you show up like super excited because, oh my gosh, you got a job transfer to Florida, amazing for you. And the other person's like, yeah, this whole thing sucks and I'm pissed off. And now I just don't like this agent because, right. So I always want to mirror and match. And I want to blend the mirror and matching between multiple people because it may be more than two as to how they're feeling. Especially when you're dealing with an inheritance issue or divorce situation. Like this may not be a comfortable situation if you're in front of a husband and wife that are about to break up and they got to sell the house, right? So you've got to work real carefully here. So one of three things happen. So this is that script, that conversation is one of three things is going to happen tonight. Either A, you're going to choose to list with me. B, you're going to choose not to list with me. Or C, I may choose not to list with you. That's that takeaway. That's that take back. So you'll choose to list with me or you won't choose to list with me, or I may not choose to list. Okay. I want them to know that I have expectations too. And a lot of times I'll get that, well, why would you take our listing? And it's like, you know what, I probably will, because I already know at that point if I'm going to take it or not, but I just want them to know I have an option too. You're going to present the market analysis and have the pricing conversation. You're going to agree to a price. You're going to sign the listing, set expectations, discuss staging and photo prep for timelines. When you go live on MLS, provide copies of the paperwork to your client as soon as possible. That may be that night if you've got multiple copies, but it may be the next day or later on that night when you get back to a scanner or a copier to get them copies. So where I usually get stopped right here is on the pricing conversation. And yes, Abby, this call is recorded and will be emailed out to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. So the market analysis and pricing. I do not give a dead on, very specific price with my clients. I'm generally giving them a range, and that range is going to depend on what the price point is. So the smaller price points, that range is a little bit smaller, and the bigger price points, that range is a little bit bigger. My price is nestled in the middle of that range. So I'm going to give I'm not going to give them a top price that I can't live with, because there will be some sellers that I'll say, you can price it anywhere between, $420 and $450, and they'll choose $450 every time. But some sellers and most humans will go to the middle. Well, we don't want to price it too high, but we don't want to not ask enough. Let's do the middle. And I get that more often than you would think. So be comfortable with a range, and that range, like even 420 to 450 is probably too big of a range. I probably would do like a $400,000 price point. I'd probably do in 20,000 increments, because there's probably a price in there that I can live with. But I'm not saying, okay, Denise, I think you should list your house for $299.99. Like, I'm not being that specific. I'm saying, I think you could price it between $285 to $310. And I might have some reasons why I might want you to price right at $300, but I also want you to be involved in this. So how are you feeling about that price point? Right now, I should already know how they're feeling about that price point, because I've done a great questionnaire. I verified that questionnaire sitting back down. I've asked them what they think their house is worth. I have a good feeling of what they think their house is worth, because I've asked them. So I'm probably not surprising them right here with information that they didn't. But I do want to take their temperature on how you feel about that range. And then depending on what they say, right, then I can adjust my thought process, or I can flex with them a little bit, or maybe they flex with me a little bit. But generally, you'll come to some sort of an agreement, and giving them a little bit of wiggle room in the price range gives them freedom to choose. Because if you go in and say, I think you should price it for $299.99, and then that price doesn't work for whatever reason, now you look like the idiot. So I like to give them a range, let them be involved in setting the price. I'll give them my reasons why I think they should price at a certain point, or what might be good or what might be bad. But your job as advocates is not to make the decision. Your job as advocates is to give them your best advice. What could happen if they take it? What could happen if they don't? Now, what decision would they like to make, right? So just, if you can relax through having to be the expert to give them a pinpoint price, and just start focusing on the higher you go, the slower it is, or the higher you go, the more the buyers are going to expect things out of this house that maybe features aren't available in, or the lower you go, the more attractive it's going to look. We're going to have a lot more buyers to work with. We still have the opportunity for multiple offers if your market allows for that right now. So I think it's okay for you guys to give a range, and then be comfortable with that. The middle price is about your perfect price, but don't give a range that you can't live with, or will not sell. You could be aggressive. Okay. That's okay. But don't be unrealistic on that high price. And if not, then shorten that range up. Don't be as wide on your range. I also don't necessarily want you to turn down a listing that is a little aggressive, as long as you think the sellers can be realistic. So if they can be realistic, then, I'm like, yeah, you want to try 315, Denise? Okay. I tell you what, we'll try it. It's on the high of my range. I'm a little nervous about it, but I want to respect your ability to want to make every dollar possible on the house, because you've told me that's important to you. So here's my rules. We're going to list at 315. I'm going to market the pants off of that. And then here's all the things I'm going to do. If we go 10 days or 10 showings and we don't have an offer, or even a hint of an offer, we're going to come down in price. Can I get your agreement to that? Denise is going to say yes, because she's my favorite seller and she does what I say. And then we're going to move on. All right. So I'm setting the expectation with her that we can go high. It's okay, because I don't want to lose the listing. I don't want to lose it when she's willing to come down to a price. She just wants to try it. Like, we can test the market. It's cool. And you know what, Denise, maybe you're right. I hope we do sell it, because we'll all make money if that's the case. But if it doesn't, here's our next step. Are you prepared for that next step? I'm going to call you. We're going to have this conversation. Okay. So that's kind of wanted to give you guys that around the consultation. Now, what else I want, again, participate with me. You're getting through the appointment, and you're getting the hardest part is really that market analysis and the pricing conversation. If you get that nailed, everything else is just setting expectations. You don't need to sell yourself. They're already sold. You don't have to do a dog and pony show about how great you are or how many houses you sell. Or, you know, you can talk about your marketing plan. That's okay. You can do that, but it's not necessary. I don't generally have people wanting to see that unless they're marketing people or salespeople and they care, or if they've had a bad experience with an agent that did zero marketing, then they may want to check in with you on that. So I want you to be prepared. Maybe I have I call it a show book. I do have a PowerPoint of that. I do have a PowerPoint of that. Let me see if I can get that up here real quick for you guys. And all it is my philosophy on what I'm going to do to sell your house. So I'm going to put it in our local MLS. That's going to go out to 14,000 agents that are going to see that your house is for sale, all of them which may have multiple buyers. This is what your house is going to look like as, you know, on the MLS. So here's the details that I'm going to nail, because not every agent nails the details or does the extra, right, of information. You're going to have great photos. You're going to have, you know, I'm going to have measurements. I'm going to have this. I'm going to have that, right? I'm going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to talk about websites. So here's our websites. Here's the Keller Williams listing system. And we're going to spread your listing out to over 340 websites across the world, right? Technically, that is correct. Here's the internet exposure from our websites. Here is our app. And so anybody that has downloaded the app will also see that your home is for sale. Here is my Facebook page. And so I'm going to run Facebook ads, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do social media, TikTok, whatever you guys are into, like, right. These are just screenshots of my stuff, and it's just in a book, and it's not even a fancy book. It's just a 3-ring binder with some like better page protectors. And these things sit in the book. And it's really high techie. That I talk a little bit about, you know, my team. And I show them a picture of my sign, and I talk about that Gary Keller is A-OK with it depends on your brokerage and your state, but in our state, as long as the brokerage is on the sign, the number, and there's a size ratio of the words that I have to meet, but I am allowed to put my sign bigger, my phone number larger than the brokerage number. And then I talk about why that's cool. And that Gary Keller understands that it's not what he does in Austin that sells the houses. It's what we do in our local markets that sell the houses, and our interpretation and our expertise in our local market. I do let them know that I have some sort of a presentation book or a marketing book that I leave copies of in the house, so that, you know, buyers that are interested can see a copy of their seller's disclosure, the feature list, plot maps, anything that might apply to the area or to their property. Homes that are value priced versus homes that are better and average, so people don't assume like, oh, well, she only lists like really cool houses, so she probably doesn't want to list my normal house, right? So I'll mix it up. These are my just listed cards that'll go out to so many houses within the neighborhood, to my known data bank of buyers that I have encountered. And here is, I'm going to have a nosy neighbor open house and invite the public. And, you know, I'm going to pass this flyer out to 100 neighbors, and I'm going to door knock and invite every single one of them to our open house, because they may know somebody that wants to live in our neighborhood. That also gives them the opportunity to go find another listing and have them be really super impressed that I'm inviting them to the nosy neighbor open house. And yes, that's what the flyer says. Okay, so that is just like a little quick lookbook, if you will, if somebody wants to know what I do. And I'll take some time to just kind of talk through all of that. However, if I do this right, I will never open that book. My goal is to not have to open the book. The goal is to set the expectations. I might talk about what I am going to do. Here's the next steps. We're going to have an open house. We're going to do this, and, you know, and I can certainly show them or point to a couple of things in the book. Hey, let me just show you what our open house flyers looks like, or let me just show you what I do. I want them to know that everything I have is going to be professionally done, but I don't want you guys to stress out that you need to have some dog and pony show. It's just like, selling is not like that anymore. It's not, you know, I don't know, I want to pick on a company, but it's not like home-based, you know, here's what's great about our products, and here's what's great about me, and here's what's great about my company, and here's what's great about every product that I can sell you today. Don't you want to sell one? Don't you want to buy one? Don't you want to do the, you know, and then don't you want to like refer me 8 of your friends that also want to buy this stuff so I can make more money? It's like that style is gone. People don't want to sit through that. You guys don't want to sit through that, right? Which is why I mix up these PowerPoints, because like it's boring, right? You guys want, like, I want the tactical information. What do I need to know? And how do I get to where I want to be? And that's what I want to give you. Don't compare yourself to an established agent that has a tendency to come in and put their trophies on the dining room table and be like, I'm the biggest seller of the homes in the, blank, blank, blank subdivision. People aren't impressed by that anymore. They're impressed about how quickly can you make a connection and communicate to them that you're a professional. And if you guys can do that, you got this. It'll be good. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to show that again. What I meant to do. Okay, so we got the order of things. Send a handwritten thank you note after every appointment, whether you win or lose. Just thank you for your time, and mail that off that night if possible. I keep thank you notes in my car so I can do that. Okay, that's it. What do you guys need to know? And if you need a jet, that's totally cool. If you guys have questions, you want to, like, what happens if I have seller objections? I am happy to stay on with you guys. I've got time. But that is up to you. So what do you guys got?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm putting my email in chat. If anybody wants anything that I have shown you today, you will get the PowerPoint and a recording of today's class in your email tomorrow. But if you want anything else that I've shown you, feel free to email me and I will give you what I have.
Thank you for your time. That was all excellent information. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Love it. Thanks.
All right.
I have a quick
Yes.
question for you.
Absolutely.
You had mentioned early on about the clue reports with the insurance companies.
Uh-huh.
Is that something that we as agents should or could be able to access ourselves? Or on the other hand, could we ask the sellers up front, like, have there been any insurance claims?
Yeah, so that in my state, both states, there is a question that actually asks the seller if they've ever made an insurance claim. So you don't necessarily need to go searching for that information. It's up to the seller to be able to disclose that. And you will not have access to the clue report directly, but an insurance agent would. So they have to be registered, just like we have to be registered to be with the MLS. Then they have to be registered to access clue reports. However, that's why having a great relationship with an insurance agent as one of your advocates is a great thing. You would just give that seller or buyer, well, it's really, you're going to use this more as a buyer's agent probably than a seller's agent. But then that agent can get you those clue reports upon quoting insurance for your client. So I would dress that up to say, hey, I've got a great insurance agent and that, has helped several of my other clients get better rates. And in addition to that, we can get you a clue report on any history that you might need to know about the house that you're buying. And so would you like that opportunity? And then you just need to communicate with your insurance agent that you're going to be referring and, make sure that they give the client a copy of the clue report. I don't know if they'll give you, I have never been handed a copy of the clue report directly. I get it from my client because it's their report to have. So it's kind of like an inspection report. Does that answer your question?
So do you request
that was
it
awesome.
from you request it from the insurance agent, but regardless, it just goes to your client and then they can show you?
Yeah.
Who
Yeah,
requests
like
it?
my client.
Oh,
will
yeah.
request
Okay, you
it.
said that.
Yeah. But if I have the relationship with the insurance agent, sometimes they'll copy me in on it. But otherwise they can give the information back to the client they're quoting. And then the client can either share it with you or with their permission, the agent will share it with you back.
And you're just kind of suggesting for them to get that. They don't necessarily have to.
Not in our area, that's not a requirement. I can't speak to all 50 states or countries we might have here. But that is not a requirement, but it is a source of, let's call it due diligence. That's, like I ask my buyers to get, I don't always say, get a clue report and let me have it. But if there's, if there's limited information on the seller's disclosure or, we have an inspection and the inspector sees charred, because I've had that happen where they go up into the attic and they see charred framing or charred sheathing on the underside from smoke or fire damage. And the sellers didn't disclose. Well, it could have been something that happened 5 sellers before them. So they have no idea, but a clue report might be able to at least give us a hint of what happened or how serious it was. I had had a buyer find out about mold remediation in a house that wasn't disclosed. And we've had, like, on foreclosures, we've had the Clue report give a little bit of hint on things. So whenever you've got something where you don't have a real in-depth disclosure, or you feel like there's something, maybe there's hidden, the Clue report can absolutely help you out. So in our area, I tell my clients, I want you to get your insurance quote before we finish inspections. That way, if anything does come up on the insurance history, we can address that as part of the resolutions, as opposed to waiting a week before closing and then having a panic attack. So
Okay.
hopefully
Thank you.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But not a requirement. And definitely as a listing agent, not a requirement. But it is a requirement of your sellers in Kansas and Missouri that you do have to disclose if you've made insurance claims, which was why the example that I gave you was so high intensity. So
awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. Anybody else? Questions? If anybody missed it, I'm putting my email address in chat. And Nicole, I see your question. Hang on just a second. Anybody can email me directly. Ask me for what you want out of the presentation tonight. I will give it to you. And Nicole, your question was finding seller leads. Okay. So yeah, we did discuss that right at the very beginning. But what I'm looking for is A+ clients. In other words, people that are willing to sell pretty quickly. So I'm going to do lead generation sources such as for sale by owners, expireds. Those are people that have already raised their hand and said, I'd like to sell. And if they're still on the market or they came off the market, obviously they didn't sell. So they may still have a wants to desire. So those are the easiest people to go after first. Second is hooking up with, if you've got the opportunity to do open houses, or you have a listing already, I would work that listing or work an open house and get to the neighbors around that open house. Invite them to your open home, door knock, see if they have family or friends that are willing to move into the area that might be interested to live next door to them. It's very interesting to me. There's a statistic that the National Realtor Association does that says that most people, all things being equal, will move within 5 miles of their current location. And there's a second statistic that says most people will buy 50% more, 50% more house than they currently own. So the reason that they'll move within 5 miles is because they're circling their job, a school district, a specific, maybe elementary, high school, getting close to mom and dad or grandparents or brothers and sisters. There's something that they're generally tied to a kind of a general location. They're just looking to upgrade their space. And so if I am hosting a listing or I have a listing and I'm doing an open house, even if the neighborhood itself has already been exhausted and you've done it before or somebody else has, go find a neighborhood within a couple of miles that is about half the price of the open house that you're doing, and go canvass that neighborhood for a potential buyer that would need to sell the house that they own. That way you've got a buyer and a seller for that potential home, or at least get somebody thinking in that direction that would be willing to work with you. So using the open houses as a way to go market, to go advertise yourself and somebody's listing and the pretty pictures is a way to let your database know also that you're in business. And then the next thing is your database. Who are your friends? Who are your advocates? Who is your plumber? Who is your, we talked about attorneys that represent like divorce cases, like they may need to sell a house and they may not know an agent, or they may not agree on an agent because one's one friend, one's the other friend. They may have an estate attorney that is dealing, with death or downsizing. One spouse dies, the other one can't maintain the house. They've got to sell. So the estate attorney sometimes has those leads for you. A tax attorney or an accountant, because people are going to go to get financial advice or a financial advisor about making investments or about using equity in their home, or what is the tax implications if I sell or I move or I buy a vacation home. These are people you need to know. So that's another great way to find listings. You can just canvas a neighborhood and just farm it. Have you ever thought of selling? Do you know how much your house is worth? Would you like to know how much your house is worth? I think any way that you can get in front of people is amazing. Make offers, meaning, make offers for, do you want to know how much your home is worth? Make offers for, do you want help with your tax appraisal? In my area, that's happening right now. And a lot of sellers are shocked at how much their houses are worth. And as agents that live this every day, sometimes we become benign to the fact that the public isn't keeping up with this on how much these houses have increased in value over the past 2 years. So make an offer to help your database. If you have a tax appraisal and want verification of what your home is worth, contact me. Some of them may sell just because they didn't know that their home was worth, an extra 50 to 100 grand or more. And they'd be willing to move because they can. Now they have the money to make the down payment on a larger house, keep their payment the same maybe. So those are just some ideas. But number one, front and center, is make sure your database knows that you're an agent. That's the most important thing. Do never stop telling your database, no matter how well you think they know you and know you're an agent, never stop telling them you're an agent. Your SOI is going to be one of the number one sources that you'll ever have in your business. And for newer agents, and I've tracked this for about 10 years, your first pieces of business will come from somebody you know right now, whether they refer you or they do business with you. Your second piece of business likelihood is coming from open houses, because you're running into people that have an interest in real estate. And number three is for sell by owners and or expireds, depending on the market conditions and what works in your area. If you can get those three things tackled, you should be on your way to starting your business.
Thank you so much for all the advice and tips and everything. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys. All right. Well, thanks for hanging in there with me. And if there's anything, you got my email. So if there's anything that I can do for you, just shoot me an email. I'm here for all of you. So go get a listing this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.